Hello, and welcome to today's review of the Transformers Kingdom Voyager class blaster and Eject. Yeah, this guy's a little packing accessory. The packaging for Kingdom or Legacy blaster, whichever release you got, doesn't really state that it's technically a 2-in-1 bundle. So here you go. You just kind of get your mini cassette for free. Beautiful stuff. Now the kind of compromise here is that this is all clear plastic, well, besides these arms, this whole kind of back torso section they had, that's all like molded and painted and stuff, but the rest of it's clear, so might be a bit prone to breakage. I'm not sure. I've only seen a couple people back from when this came out. Only a couple people have reported in different groups that I'm in that, oh yeah, Eject broke or whatever, so there you go. And then when Legacy rolled around, we did get a repaint of this in the G1 Headmaster's colours, the Japanese show, and it became twin cast, and then we got a black version of this guy, but it was also cast in clear black plastic. So, same breakage issues there, and you do have to buy essentially 2 blasters to get both cassettes, which are very different to one another. I'm sure they're very different. But in all seriousness, nothing beats buying the same figure twice to get the same accessory twice, and the only difference each time is the colours. It's Hasbro 101, repaint everything, and yeah, money printer, right? No one wanted to buy twin cast though, that's the problem. So, generally for aesthetics, this guy's quite cool. I'm pretty damn happy with the robot mode for Blaster specifically. However, something to point out, which will affect this in the end, is the fact that some of this is molded in that grey plastic that just yellows. So these joints at the hip, as you can see, it's a different shade to, say, the thighs or the kind of lower leg calf sections. And then the buttons here, as you can see, they do push in, that's something it does. But they are yellowed. You can definitely tell from this angle. It's again different shade to every other bit of grey on here. It sucks, but this figure came out during the very end of Kingdom, and spoiler alert, this guy isn't the only Kingdom figure to suffer from grey plastic yellowing. Cyclonus is another really good example that I've already reviewed. Off the top of my head, I haven't really thought much about other Kingdom figures I have that might have the same problem, because I don't have tons of the Kingdom stuff, as most of it was just Beast Wars, which I don't care about. But yeah, generally this is cool. So let's just move on to articulation for the two of them. So for articulation on Blaster, we have shoulders going up this much, doing a full 360, and then bicep swivel, a bit more than a 90 at the elbow, ever so slightly more. As you can see, there's a kind of slant going upwards, so we've gone past that 90 point, but he's not going much further. For the wrists, we have a inward bend, like so. This is so his pressing finger can kind of push his own buttons here. It's good for photography, but in practice, just press it yourself, right? So that kind of works how it should. The head on this guy, nice clean all the way around. A little bit of confused dog to the left, to the right. Tiny bit of hinging backwards. No forward movement, which head movement on these, or maybe a little bit forward, but head movement on Transformers is typically kind of low impact stuff. Would be welcome, but oh well. We have a fully functioning waist swivel. We have hips that do the banana split. moved his butt flap a little bit, and we can get that far backwards, slightly maybe more forwards. Differences are kind of negligible, but whatever. Knees pull 90, as you can see, he's very blocky. Then we have the thigh swivel here. As you can see, it's a bit lower than say the average bot due to the size of these upper sections, but it's all right. Here we have deep ankle pivot. There you go. Then the toes don't really go down, if you force them down on the pin, they're going to break. So beyond that, you might get a little bit of up movement. Then they plug in for transformation. But generally speaking, that's all, at least for Blaster. Yeah, his rifles here as well, it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of a unique kind of snipery design for him, but whatever. Eject, by comparison. This is more articulate than, say, the Siege micro cassettes, at least in terms of kind of being this small and doing, so much. So he's got arms that go all the way around at the elbow. Beautiful stuff. He's got elbows that go that far. They're on a ball joint as well, so they swivel. Head gets movement all the way around. Head can also go backwards on the ball joint. And it goes all the way back like so for the transformation. Okay. Then if we move the arms up, banana split. Legs kick up quite far. Kick back that far. Super deep knee bend. And it's a ball joint. Every ball joint acts as a swivel. And then yeah, beautiful stuff. He's got no waist or anything, but that's cool with something like minute. And really it's just an accessory since they don't even properly advertise the fact that this is a 2-figure set. Generally, yeah, comparative to Blaster, I'm much more impressed by how much this moves compared to Blaster, which, it kind of shows you how kind of mid Blaster's articulation is, but whatever. Now, we're going to be moving on to the size comparison. So, for the size comparison, here we have Drill Cutter, Ralph, Steve. Yeah, generally this is cool. Shall I compare him to another deluxe? I guess I might as well. Earthrise Sunstreaker. So, the difference between these two guys is Blaster came out like a year and a half or so after Sunstreaker did. So, this is kind of the same Hasbro format of certain figures in certain size classes being expected to be a certain size. This isn't like a 10-year age gap where there's going to be a huge difference. But yeah, generally this is okay. So this is a Voyager figure. This was a deluxe, and I think at the time this Blaster came out, deluxes had just gotten to around the £30 mark. I believe I paid exactly like 30 quid for this brand new. So there's that. Voyagers by comparison now, they're £5 more expensive, and I'm sure there's no good reason for it. Sunstreaker by comparison, he doesn't matter because he's not part of how we're really assessing this guy, but it's something to talk about for the value for money. If we really kind of assess the situation and compare them to old Voyagers, that would have cost less. Because there's definitely old Voyagers, or hell, Voyagers in the same wave that I spent less on. Well, not same wave. Voyagers in the same line, okay? I didn't spend 30 quid on Kingdom Cyclonus. I got him brand new for, I think like 28 from Forbidden Planet, and yeah, there you go. So, whatever. Anyway, it's crazy that the prices seem to have kind of went up a little bit before the line was even over. But anyway, let's just move on to the transformation. And so for the alt mode, we have Blaster in his kind of boombox form. I'm very happy with this. You know, it kind of looks how you assume it would from the back, but from the front, it's very clean. I mean, much like what's his face, Netflix mold Soundwave or any of its variants, there are gaps in the front of the mode, but you know, from say this angle, they're not too visible. You can definitely see something under these yellow hinges, but it's fine. It's, I mean, you pick them up and it's very noticeable, but hey, I don't think about it too much. Eject by comparison, you know, nice little cassette mode. It's alright, you know, nothing to really complain about here. It presents as you'd expect it to for something that's kind of a mainline accessory. And for how it interacts with this boombox mode, you just push this button so it opens up, slot them in there, close them up, and problem solved. You know, it's quite cool. Stores away nicely. For the gun, this stores away by just tabbing onto the back. It's not the prettiest thing ever, but it goes on there and you can't see it from the front. But something to point out is another 2 points of yellowing that I never noticed up until transforming this guy. And as you can see, this section here and this section, which the handles are connected to, it's yellow. Yeah. Again, it sucks, you know, it really does, but whatever. They up the prices, cheapen out on plastic, and we get problems like this. So yeah, very unique. I've got nothing to add. So for the vehicle mode, or alt mode, whatever we're calling it, size comparison, Joker, Ralph, and on the topic of kind of things you would use, you know, gadgets, right? Gadget transformers. Here we have 2007's Real Gear Robot. Meantime, I believe this one is. If it's not Meantime, forgive me. I've had a lapse in judgment because I know there's two versions of the watch. I don't remember who's here, but anyway, yeah, he's kind of very similar-ish kind of height, you know. Well, he's, you know, standing up that way, but lying down is very different. But anyway, we're building an army of household items. I mean, sure, a boombox isn't the most relevant thing nowadays, nor is a watch. But I mean, there's a market for watches, but hey, you know, we're building an army. And these are just some of the transformers I have that turn into non-vehicle-y or animal things. Yeah, something to point out. I'll review this eventually. I don't plan to review it until my, like, the rest of the Real Gear stuff arrives, which I do have on the way. I have managed to acquire one of every mold, and that'll kind of work its way into a channel eventually. And now we move on to my final thoughts. And so for my final thoughts on Blaster and Eject, aesthetics on this guy are 3.5 out of 5. Now it's I do like this design kind of more than the what I'd call the average design, but this is nothing special. I mean, nothing about this figure is special. But you know, it's just G1 Blaster. Generally standard stuff, pretty basic design all around. And yeah, nothing else to add about general aesthetics. I mean, I didn't talk about paint too much. You know, Sherry's got paint on these 5 sections. This whole windscreen, not windscreen, chest screen or whatever, you know, this yellow is painted. The Autobot insignia is tamper-graphed on. We have a bit of black paint on the shoulders, some on the face. It's all over the tape deck mode, but it's just black detailing. Nothing I feel would be too noteworthy, let's say. You know, it's kind of just paint that they were able to allocate budget for, seemingly because this figure is incredibly basic from an engineering standpoint. Which brings me on to the transformation. And talking about incredibly simple from an engineering standpoint, sure, it does some cool little things with the arms where they kind of fold themselves outwards, like after disconnecting at the top of the forearm, and you kind of flip the hands all the way around. It's cool, you know, it's not a bad transformation, nothing about it is difficult, and you kind of just slot the hands into place in the gaps that form in the legs, and that's kind of how you compress everything together, you know. It's like a really cool puzzle, but it's not special, which is why transformation gets 3 out of 5. And really, you know, across both modes, it's not a terrible conversion, it's just kind of how it is. I've just realized these are the wrong way around. Now, someone might correct me and say, oh yeah, you had them the wrong way around before, and that it's meant to be these sections for the alt mode with the kind of grill bit, and then straight up speaker for the robot mode. But I think it's this way. It looks good to me. I think that's how I remember it on the G1 toy. I don't know. Yeah, articulation for this guy. Generally, I definitely think it's a 3 out of 5. He's very average, especially for a Voyager. He's not got no specialty articulation. Ankle pivots are standard affair stuff. Shoulders aren't doing an awful lot. He's just a load of cubes and cuboids, you know. He's not going to move around like, I don't know, a Spider-Man, you know, but whatever. Yeah, generally solid, you know, just 3 out of 5. He doesn't do anything wrong, you know, by any stretch. And then value for money. Oh man, where do I go with this one? If this had released several years ago, this would have been, say, about £25, right? You would have got this plus the packing accessory. And, you know, at that price I wouldn't complain, but this was 30. And I know it's only a 5 or more, but I've stated this figure is nothing special. He's kind of like a mid all-rounder. He's very kind of average for this size class, you know, even with Eject at his side. And as cool as this is, he's cool, you know. But he is made out of clear plastic, so they did cheap out on that. I guarantee you, if this came out like a number of years ago before price hikes were kind of so common with Hasbro and they really started overcharging for everything, if this was at a £25 price point, this would have been opaque plastic, I guarantee it. But, you know, that's how far we've come with Transformers as a whole. You know, back in the day when Universe 08 was a thing, we got a deluxe class Hound that came with a fully transformable Ravage cassette. And that didn't cost any more than the average deluxe at the time. But now we can't get a character with a cassette at the Voyager price point that is clear. You know, for us to get clear cassettes with anything, they charge not clear cassettes. For us to get opaque cassettes like that are properly molded and don't feel like time bombs, you have to buy a leader class figure, which is significantly more than this, you know. I mean, nowadays leaders are $55.99 or whatever, so you end up spending £25 more than this to get a figure that's the same size but comes with like 2 or 3 accessories that just so happen to be the same sort of cassettes. Generally, it just proves more flaws in the pricing structure, but again, that's something I'm working on in the background, and it will eventually make it to the channel. Generally, just as a side, value for money on this guy, I'm still giving it a 3 out of 5. I do not think he's special by any stretch, and that just leaves him overall with a 3 out of 5 because he's pretty average across the board, you know. He's nothing special. I don't hate him. I do like him. But it just doesn't do an awful lot for me, you know. This has been AnimatedCHUG. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.